The cosmos stretched endlessly, a canvas splattered with the twinkling lights of distant stars and galaxies. Aboard the Vanguard, flagship of the Deathworlder Fleet, the silence of space was a heavy, omnipresent cloak, interrupted only by the occasional hum of the engine or the soft beeps of the operating systems. Captain Marcus Holt stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the star-strewn void ahead, the subtle vibration of the deck beneath his boots grounding him to the ship. The bridge of the Vanguard was bathed in the soft glow of holographic displays, casting eerie shadows across the faces of the crew. The air was tinged with the scent of ionized particles, the smell of space travel, familiar and strangely comforting. "Captain, you need to see this." The voice of Lieutenant Graham, his communications officer, cut through the quiet. It was tense, a thread of urgency woven through it. Marcus turned, his heavy boots thudding against the metal floor as he approached the communications console. The lieutenant's fingers danced over the holographic interface, a symphony of light under his touch. "What is it, Lieutenant?" Marcus asked, his voice a calm counter to Graham's palpable anxiety. "We've picked up a distress signal, sir. It's odd," Graham replied, furrowing his brow as he adjusted the audio playback. The signal crackled through the bridge's speakers, a haunting melody of desperation and fear. Marcus leaned in, his ears picking up the uneven rhythmic pulsing of the signal. It wasn't just the content that was unsettling, it was the language, an ancient dialect of Galactic standard that few used anymore. "To any vessel receiving this, we are under attack. Immediate assistance required." The message was looped, its plea echoing in the vastness of the bridge, sending a chill down Marcus's spine. He straightened, his decision already made. "Pinpoint the origin and set a course. Let's not keep them waiting." "Aye, Captain," Graham acknowledged, his relief palpable even as his fingers resumed their ballet across the controls. The rest of the crew were a quiet presence, their focused energy a testament to their training. They were seasoned, not easily rattled by the unknown. As the Vanguard shifted its course, the stars outside the viewing port stretched into lines, the fabric of space bending around the mighty ship. The hum of the engine deepened, a growl of a beast awakened, and the scent of ozone became more pronounced, a byproduct of the shift to faster-than-light speed. Captain Holt returned to the front of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, his mind racing through possible scenarios. The distress call was a riddle wrapped in a mystery, a voice from the past calling out for help in the present, its origins shadowed by the fog of war and time. The taste of black coffee lingered on his tongue, bitter and sharp, much like the thoughts swirling in his mind. He was a man who had seen too many battles, each leaving a scar on his soul, yet his resolve remained unbroken. He knew the risks of responding to such a call, pirates, traps, or worse, but his duty was clear. As the Vanguard hurtled through the cosmos, the quiet muttering of the crew filled the space around him. Officer Jane, his tactician, approached with a pad displaying tactical data. "Captain, the system we're headed to, it's been marked as a graveyard of ships. It's not charted on any recent maps, but legends talk about a star that devours those who wander too close," Jane reported, his voice a mixture of intrigue and caution. Marcus's lips twitched into a wry smile. "Then let's be sure not to wander too closely, Mr. Jane." "Yes, sir. I'll make sure we stay clear of any stellar anomalies," Jane replied, the ghost of a smile fleeting across his face as he stepped away, his steps nearly silent against the hum of the ship. The bridge was a symphony of low voices and the soft tapping of commands. Each officer was a note in the harmony of their mission, their presence a subtle but crucial element of the whole. Marcus's gaze returned to the stars, the blackness punctuated by the brilliance of distant suns, and the nebulae that painted the void with colors that no painter could hope to replicate. It was beautiful and terrifying in its infinity, a reminder of how small they all were in the grand scheme of the universe. The Vanguard continued on its path, a lone ship against the canvas of the cosmos, its crew a collection of souls drawn together by fate and duty. They were headed towards uncertainty, towards a call that might lead to salvation or doom, but they would face it together, as they always had. As the Vanguard sliced through the cosmos, the eerie quiet of space was pierced by the rhythmic thrum of the engines, a steady heartbeat in the cold expanse. Captain Marcus Holt stood surveying the star map, its luminescent arcs and lines casting an ethereal glow on his stern features. The system ahead, marked by its notorious history, loomed as a silent challenge. In the tactical operations room, subdued whispers filled the air, mingling with the scent of lubricant and metal, a smell that spoke of readiness and the impending caress of battle. Officer Jane, his face illuminated by the soft blue light of the holographic displays, outlined potential strategies. Each plan spun a delicate thread of risk and opportunity. Given the historical data, we're likely walking into a complex trap, or there's something out there that doesn't want to be found, Jane said, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying the gravity of their situation. He manipulated the display, bringing up 3D models of shipwrecks that orbited the star like ghostly sentinels. Marcus absorbed the information with a nod, his mind as sharp as the edge of a blade. Prepare all hands for a combat scenario. I want every system at peak efficiency, no surprises. His command reverberated softly, a ripple across the calm surface of his crew's professionalism. Below deck, in the belly of the ship, Chief Engineer Luca DeMarco was already orchestrating a symphony of maintenance. The clang of tools and hiss of steam created a cacophony that resonated through the steel corridors. Luca, with a smear of grease on his cheek, inspected the pulse cannons personally. Each weapon needed to sing perfectly in the void's choir, their notes deadly and precise. Double-check the alignments. I don't want a single misfire, he barked to his team, his voice echoing slightly off the bulkheads. The engineers moved with a well-practiced choreography, their movements fluid under his vigilant gaze. Back on the bridge, Marcus met with his navigation officer, Lieutenant Carson, who presented the latest stellar drift charts. The gravitational pull from the dead star is stronger than our initial estimates. It'll affect our approach, Carson reported, the concern clear in his tone as he adjusted the projection to illustrate his point. Adjust our entry vector, then. Keep us on the outskirts of the debris field. Use it to our advantage, Marcus instructed, his directive slicing through the uncertainty like a ship cutting through the black sea of space. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the metallic tang of the ship's recycled air as Marcus retreated to his quarters for a brief respite. There, he pored over ancient logs and battle reports from the region. The data pads were cold under his fingertips, the text a maze of warnings and whispers of lost fleets. The taste of his strong coffee provided a bitter anchor to reality as he pieced together the lore surrounding their destination. Elsewhere, the ship's combat teams readied themselves. The armory was a hive of activity, the air thick with the odor of gun oil and the sharp scent of ozone from charging energy weapons. Sergeant Knox, overseeing the preparations, handed out the last of the personal shield units. Remember, you're not just protecting yourselves. You're guarding every soul aboard this vessel, he reminded his troops, his gruff voice softened by the weight of responsibility. As the fleet drew nearer to the mysterious signal's origin, a sense of foreboding settled over the crew. The stars seemed dimmer here, the darkness more consuming, as if the very light were hesitant to linger. Marcus, returning to the bridge, paused to watch a technician calibrate a sensor array, the flickering lights reflecting in his deep-set eyes. "Everything in order, Ensign?" he asked, the simplicity of his query belying the complexity of his thoughts. "Yes, Captain." "Just fine-tuning for better reception in the interference zone," replied the ensign, unaware of the captain's introspective storm. As the final checks were made and the fleet's course adjusted to skirt the gravitational anomalies, Marcus took his place at the helm once more. The vast window before him framed their entry into the forsaken system, the debris of 1,000 dreams floating silently in the void. The Vanguard and its sister ships braced themselves as they crossed the threshold into the unknown, their hulls whispering through the remains of battles long past. Marcus felt the weight of history pressing against him, a silent reminder that space, for all its beauty, was an unforgiving frontier. But within him burned the unquenchable fire of duty and the resolve to protect his crew from the ghosts of this cosmic graveyard. As the Vanguard ventured deeper into the uncharted system, a thick curtain of cosmic dust and gas enshrouded the fleet, obscuring the stars and dimming the void with a haunting opacity. Captain Marcus Holt's eyes narrowed, scanning the nebulous landscape that unfolded before them, each particle of space dust glittering like a distant memory in the faint light. Lieutenant Carson adjusted the ship's trajectory with precise, delicate touches to the control panel, his fingers gliding over the surfaces as if coaxing secrets from the void itself. "Sensors are struggling to penetrate the nebula, Captain. It's like navigating a labyrinth without a map," he reported, the undercurrent of tension in his voice mirroring the charged atmosphere of the bridge. The air was thick with the metallic tang of ionized particles, a taste that became more pronounced as the Vanguard pushed forward. The usual hum of the ship seemed muffled here, swallowed by the cosmic fog that enveloped them, and every so often the hull resonated with the soft pings of microscopic collisions. "Sweep the forward arrays again. Keep an eye out for any anomalies," Marcus instructed, his voice a calm beacon amidst the sensory storm. His gaze was like a blade cutting through the uncertainty that clouded their path. Deep within the ship, in the cramped confines of the engine room, Chief Engineer Luca DeMarco wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his greased hand. The engines thrummed with a steady pulse, but the nebula's dense particles strained their systems, drawing a chorus of creaks and groans from the ship's aged skeleton. Luca listened intently, deciphering the ship's needs like a doctor diagnosing ailments, his tools clattering softly against the metal as he adjusted settings to optimize performance. Meanwhile, the dimly lit corridors of the Vanguard carried the echo of footsteps and the soft murmur of crew members sharing tales of spectral ships rumored to haunt this star system. These stories, whispered from one generation to the next, spoke of vessels swallowed whole by the void, their crews doomed to drift eternally among the stars. The dining hall buzzed with subdued energy as crew members gathered, seeking solace in the communal ritual of sharing a meal. The aroma of synthetically brewed coffee mixed with the scent of reheated meals, providing a comforting, if artificial, reminder of normalcy. Here, Sergeant Knox shared a quiet conversation with his team, their voices low and steady, discussing the potential threats that lay hidden within the nebula's embrace. "We keep our guards up. No heroics. We're in unknown territory, and it's the smart plays that will get us through," Knox advised, his eyes scanning the faces of his team, each nod a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of their situation. Back on the bridge, as another sweep of the radar completed, a subtle shift occurred. The screen flickered momentarily, then stabilized, revealing a faint outline of an object. It was distant and indistinct, yet unmistakably artificial, a structure floating amidst the nebula's embrace. "Captain, you might want to see this," Carson called out, his voice a mix of excitement and wariness. Marcus approached, his presence commanding yet reassuring as he observed the readout. "Enhance that sector," he commanded, his finger pointing to the shadowed silhouette that had appeared on their screens. The image sharpened, the outline of a massive derelict spacecraft emerging from the gloom, its hull scarred and pitted, a silent testament to its mysterious fate. "The readings are off the charts, but they're inconsistent with any known ship designs," Carson added, his brow furrowed in concentration as he worked to extract more data from the reluctant sensors. Marcus's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of legend with the reality before him. This ghost ship could be the key to unraveling the nebula's secrets, or it could be a harbinger of dangers yet unseen. "Prepare a boarding party. We need to know what's out there," Marcus decided, his decision slicing through the uncertainty like a beacon in the dark. "And keep scanning for any other surprises. This nebula isn't giving up its secrets easily." As the crew mobilized with quiet efficiency, the Vanguard continued its cautious advance towards the derelict, each moment drawing them closer to the unknown. The ship's systems whispered and hummed, a symphony of technology and human determination facing the vast, unyielding silence of space. In the dining hall, the last of the meals were cleared away as the crew returned to their stations, the taste of coffee lingering on their tongues, a bitter reminder of the long night ahead. The Vanguard and its ghostly companion drifted closer, two specters in the void, their destinies intertwined by the mysterious forces of the cosmos. As the Vanguard drew closer to the derelict, the nebula's dense fog seemed to congeal around them, the ship's lights casting ghostly beams into the swirling mists. The chill of the void seeped through the hull, a cold reminder of the vacuum outside, as Captain Marcus Holt stood resolute, his eyes locked on the looming hulk of the ancient spacecraft. The air on the bridge was thick with anticipation, the crew's breaths shallow, their senses heightened. The scent of ozone grew stronger as the electrical systems strained against the nebula's interference. Every screen and panel bathed the room in a sterile glow, casting sharp shadows that flickered with each subtle fluctuation of power. "Distance to target. 500 meters and closing," Lieutenant Carson announced, his voice steady but tinged with the tension that gripped them all. The derelict's massive silhouette filled the viewport, its surface scarred and battered by centuries of cosmic winds and micrometeorite barrages. Marcus nodded, barely perceptible, his thoughts racing. "Helm, steady as she goes. Bring us alongside her midsection. Let's find a way in," he commanded, his voice echoing slightly in the hushed atmosphere of the bridge. The Vanguard's approach was cautious, the thrusters firing in short, controlled bursts as they maneuvered closer to the ghost ship. The metallic taste of apprehension was palpable on their tongues, each crew member acutely aware of the countless eyes that might once have watched from those broken portholes, now dark and empty. In the lower decks, Sergeant Knox readied his squad for the boarding operation. The armory rang with the clatter of equipment and the muffled thumps of magnetic boots as the soldiers checked their gear. "Remember, we don't know what's waiting for us over there. Eyes sharp, and keep the comms open," Knox instructed, his voice firm, projecting just enough authority to reassure his team without overwhelming the tense air of preparation. The soldiers' suits were equipped with external cameras, feeding live footage back to the Vanguard as they assembled in the airlock. The smell of recycled air and nervous sweat mingled, filling the small space with a palpable sense of impending action. As the airlock doors sealed with a hiss, the bridge crew watched the telemetry screens intently. The external cameras painted a stark picture of the derelict's hull as the boarding party made their approach, their lights probing the darkness, seeking an entry point. "They found an access hatch, but it looks to be jammed," Carson reported, relaying information from the team. "Use the plasma torches, cut through if necessary," Marcus instructed, his focus never wavering from the screens that showed every moment of the operation. Sparks flew in bright showers as the torches bit into the ancient metal, the harsh light stark against the void's omnipresent black. After moments that stretched like hours, the hatch gave way, peeling back with a groan that spoke of ages past in silent waiting. The team moved through, their lights piercing the darkness inside the derelict. The interior was a catacomb of shadows and silence, the air stale and thick with the dust of decay. The smell was old and musty, heavy with the aroma of oxidized metal and the faint, eerie hint of something unidentifiable. As they progressed deeper into the ship, the silence grew oppressive, the only sounds their breathing and the soft thuds of their boots on the metal floor. Then, abruptly, the lead scout's camera feed flickered and went dead. "Report! What's going on?" Marcus demanded, his voice cutting through the sudden spike in tension that shot through the bridge. "We lost Jenkins' feed. Switching to backup." Knox's voice came through, strained but controlled. Seconds later, the backup feed blinked on, showing the team pausing, regrouping. The corridor ahead was narrower, the walls lined with conduits and broken panels. Then, without warning, the feeds erupted in chaos. Shapes, swift, almost fluid in their ambiguity, flashed across the screens, colliding with the boarding party. The sounds of combat, muffled and distorted by the comms link, filled the bridge. "Engage at will, defensive positions." Knox's orders were clear, even as the feeds shook with the violence of the encounter. The enemy, whatever it was relentless, but unseen, their forms a blur of motion too fast for the cameras to track clearly. On the bridge, Marcus watched, his jaw clenched as his team fought back an unseen foe. The mystery of the derelict deepened, a puzzle box that had snapped shut, biting the hands that dared to open it. What had lain dormant in the depths of this forsaken hulk was now awake, and it was not welcoming. The conflict escalated quickly, the sound of energy weapons discharging and shouts of command filling the bridge's audio. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the skirmish ended. The camera feed stabilized, showing the team catching their breath, the corridor beyond them clear. "We're clear, for now. Continuing to sweep the vessel," Knox reported, his voice a low growl of vigilance and fatigue. Marcus nodded to himself, his mind working furiously. "Keep your guard up, Sergeant. There's more to this ship than old ghosts, and whatever's aboard might just hold the key to the nebula's secrets." As the team ventured further into the derelict, every step took them deeper into the heart of a mystery that was only just beginning to unfold. The corridors of the ancient derelict hummed with a resonance that set the teeth on edge, the dim lighting casting long, wavering shadows against the hull's scarred interiors. As Sergeant Knox led his team deeper into the vessel, the air grew colder, the chill seeping into their suits and clawing at their nerves. The metallic tang of the ship's ancient atmosphere mingled with the acrid scent of discharged energy weapons, a stark reminder of the skirmish that had just unfolded. Knox paused at a junction, his helmet light slicing through the darkness to reveal multiple pathways. "Split up 2 by 2. Carson, take the left with Davis. Jensen, you're with me on the right. Comms open. No heroics," he commanded, his voice a gravelly echo in the narrow space. The teams moved silently, their footsteps soft thuds on the cold metal floor. The walls here were lined with conduits and panels, many hanging open with their innards spilled like the guts of some mechanical beast. In the dim light, Carson's beam caught something unusual, a flicker of movement, a shadow against shadows that did not belong to any human form. "Contact, possible visual," he whispered into the comms, his voice taut with tension. The response was immediate and chilling, a low mechanical growl that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, vibrating through the very air. Then, all at once, the ship came alive with light and sound. Panels lit up with alien script, pulsing and flowing like some ancient language reborn from the depths of time. Knox and his team regrouped, their backs together as they faced this new threat. From the shadows emerged forms, sleek metallic creatures, their bodies a seamless blend of organic and inorganic materials. They moved with a terrifying grace, their limbs whirring softly with hidden gears and hydraulics. The air crackled with static as the creatures communicated in bursts of electronic noise, a symphony of eerie, discordant tones that made the hair on the back of the neck stand up. They advanced slowly, deliberately, as if each step were part of a greater, unknown ritual. "Steady," Knox warned, his weapon aimed at the lead creature. "Open fire on my mark." But before he could give the order, a new sound pierced the chaos, a high-pitched whine that crescendoed into a deafening blast. The corridor was suddenly awash in light as a hidden defense system activated, sending a barrage of energy pulses down the hall. The team ducked behind whatever cover they could find, the air sizzling around them as pulses struck the metal walls. When the barrage ceased, Knox peered around his cover, his eyes wide with disbelief. The creatures were still standing, unharmed, their bodies having absorbed or deflected the energy with ease. One of the creatures stepped forward, its movements fluid and unnervingly human. It raised a limb, and the air shimmered around it as it manipulated some invisible interface. The language of the ship's panels changed, coalescing into Galactic Standard. "Warning. Intruders detected. Defensive protocols engaged. Cease hostilities or be neutralized," a synthetic voice announced, emotionless, yet somehow tinged with a threat. Knox lowered his weapon slightly, eyeing the creature. "We're not here to fight. We responded to a distress signal," he said cautiously, his voice firm but not aggressive. The creature's head tilted, mimicking a human gesture of curiosity. "Distress signal not sent by us. Anomaly detected. System malfunction. Assistance required," it replied, the synthetic voice now carrying a hint of urgency. The revelation hit Knox like a physical blow. This ship, this entity wasn't the source of the distress call, but another victim of whatever anomaly had trapped them here. "Tell us about the anomaly. Maybe we can help each other," Knox suggested, lowering his weapon completely now, a gesture of trust that felt both foolish and necessary. The creature paused, its body humming softly as if processing the proposal. "Data exchange proposed. Stand by for interface connection. From the creature extended a thin, filament-like appendage reaching towards Nox's suit. Hesitant but committed, Nox allowed the connection, a stream of data flowing directly into his helmet's display. Images, diagrams, and text flooded his vision, a barrage of information that painted a grim picture of the derelict's past and the nebula's deadly secret, a spatial anomaly capable of trapping ships and manipulating time itself. As the data transfer concluded, the creature withdrew, its stance relaxing slightly. Cooperation is beneficial. Mutual survival probable. Follow us. Nox nodded, signaling his team to lower their weapons. Lead the way. Together, humans and machines ventured deeper into the bowels of the ship, each step taking them closer to understanding the true nature of the threat they faced and possibly the way to overcome it. The coalition of flesh and metal marched deeper into the ancient vessel, guided by the mechanical creatures whose forms were both alien and familiar. The air grew denser, thick with the hum of ancient machinery and the faint, pervasive scent of ozone. The walls of the corridor pulsed with a gentle luminescence, illuminating the path with a ghostly glow that seemed to breathe in rhythm with the ship itself. Sergeant Nox led his team with cautious determination, his senses alert to every whisper of sound and shift in the shadowy atmosphere. The mechanical beings moved with purpose, their joints emitting soft whirs and clicks that spoke of long disuse suddenly overcome. "Where are we headed?" Nox asked, his voice low, resonant against the metallic symphony around them. "To the core. Anomaly source located there. Your assistance required to neutralize instability," one of the creatures responded, its voice modulated through vibrations in the air, more felt than heard. As they progressed, the temperature dropped, a coldness seeping into their suits, clinging to their skin with an almost predatory chill. The dim corridors gave way to a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows, the center dominated by a towering structure of metal and pulsing energy fields. It was a magnificent yet daunting sight, a relic of technology far beyond human understanding. "This is the anomaly's heart," the creature explained, gesturing toward the towering construct with a fluid motion. "Temporal distortions emanate from here. Stability required to prevent collapse and eventual implosion." Nox examined the structure, his gaze tracing the complex patterns of light that danced across its surface. "What do you need us to do?" The air vibrated with a new intensity as the mechanical being connected to the ship's systems, a series of holographic displays springing to life around them, casting eerie patterns on the humans' faces. "Anomaly stabilization requires reactivation of containment protocols. Systems damaged. Human intervention could restore functionality." The task seemed daunting, the technology alien, but the objective was clear. Nox nodded to his team, a silent signal of agreement that was returned with determined, if wary, expressions. "Show us what to do," he said, stepping forward, his resolve solidifying like ice in his veins. The mechanical creatures directed them to various consoles around the room, each station a puzzle of alien interfaces and cryptic data streams. Carson, the communications officer, paired up with one of the beings, watching as it demonstrated the sequence of actions required to engage the systems. With careful, meticulous movements, Carson mimicked the creature, his hands hovering over the controls before committing to each step. The air was thick with concentration, the only sounds the soft mechanical whispers of their allies and the faint, rhythmic pulsing of the chamber. As each station was activated, the central structure began to change, the chaotic swirling of energy within its core slowing, becoming more rhythmic, more controlled. The light it emitted shifted from a harsh, flickering glare to a soft, steady glow, soothing in its consistency. But as the last console was engaged, a sharp, discordant tone sliced through the chamber, the structure shuddering as if in pain. Alarms blared, a cacophony that shattered the brief harmony. The mechanical beings froze, their bodies emitting a high-pitched whine of distress. "Instability increasing. Anomaly reaction unforeseen. Immediate corrective action required," the lead creature broadcasted, its voice urgent, panicked. Knox's heart raced as he surveyed the room, his mind racing to formulate a plan. "Talk to me! What's happening?" "Feedback loop detected. Energy containment failing. Must disrupt the loop or face total structural collapse," it explained, the holograms flickering wildly as if in agony. Without hesitation, Knox turned to his team. "We need to cut the power to these consoles, now." As they moved to obey, another wave of energy pulsed from the structure, knocking them off their feet, a tangible wave of force that tasted of metal and static. The ground beneath them trembled, the air thick with the smell of burning circuits and fear. Dragging themselves up, the team worked with frantic speed, pulling cables and smashing control panels, anything to interrupt the flow of power. With each disconnected wire, the tremors lessened, the alarms quieted, until finally the chamber fell silent, the anomaly's core dimming to a dark, lifeless husk. Breathing heavily, Knox surveyed the damage, the taste of adrenaline sharp on his tongue. The chamber was a ruin of sparking wires and shattered displays, but the immediate danger had passed. The mechanical beings slowly reactivated, their bodies flickering with residual energy. "We have stabilized the anomaly. For now," one of them said, its tone no longer so certain, its movements sluggish. Knox nodded, his relief tempered by the knowledge of how close they had come to disaster. "We need a more permanent solution. This was too close." The creature's lights blinked slowly, a sign of assent. "Agreed. We must devise a failsafe, prevent future destabilization." As they regrouped to plan their next steps, the mystery of the derelict and its dangerous heart loomed larger than ever, a puzzle demanding to be solved, not just for their safety, but for the integrity of space and time itself. In the aftermath of the near disaster, the dimly lit chamber hummed with a subdued energy, the air tinged with the scent of ozone and charred electronics. Sergeant Knox and the mechanical beings convened around a makeshift holographic display that flickered intermittently, casting an otherworldly glow on their determined faces. "We can't afford a repeat of that malfunction." "What's our next move?" Knox asked, his voice echoing slightly in the cavernous room. The lead mechanical creature, its body a complex tapestry of metal and faintly glowing circuits, interfaced with the hologram. "Permanent solution requires installation of a new failsafe within the core's matrix. We possess the necessary technology but lack the manual dexterity." Carson stepped forward, wiping a smear of grease from his brow. "Show us what to do. We've got hands and we're not afraid to use them," he said, a tentative smile playing on his lips despite the gravity of their situation. The creature paused, its sensors blinking as it processed the proposal. "Acceptable. Follow my guidance closely," it responded, its tone registering what might have been cautious optimism. Together they devised a plan rooted in the stark realism of their predicament. The mechanical being outlined a series of steps involving the delicate recalibration of the anomaly's core, requiring precise manual adjustments that only the humans could execute. "First, we'll need to stabilize the energy flux inside the core. That means adjusting the containment fields manually," the creature explained, displaying a complex diagram of the core's internal structure. Knox nodded, absorbing the intricacies of the plan. "Carson, Jensen, you're with me on this. Let's gear up and get this done." Equipped with specialized tools provided by their mechanical allies, the team donned their protective suits, the fabric rustling softly against their movements. The weight of their task was palpable, pressing down on them like the deep cold of the void outside. They approached the core, a monolithic structure that thrummed with contained power, its surface cool and smooth to the touch, vibrating with the potential of unleashed energy. The air was electric, each breath they took charged with the static of raw power held at bay by failing systems. Knox inserted the first tool into an access panel, his hands steady despite the tremor that ran through the floor beneath them. "Steady, everyone. We do this right. We might just save ourselves in this ship." Inside the core, the containment fields flickered as they adjusted the settings, guided by the mechanical being's precise instructions. Carson worked a console, his fingers flying over alien symbols, that responded with a satisfying series of tones. "Adjustments are holding, energy levels stabilizing," Carson reported, a note of relief in his voice that mirrored the easing tension in the room. Meanwhile, Jensen monitored the energy flux, his eyes locked on a readout that scrolled data in real time. "Flux levels dropping to normal ranges. I think it's working." The mechanical creatures observed their human counterparts with what could only be described as silent approval, their sensors flickering in the dim light. As the final adjustments were made, the core emitted a low hum, the sound of stability returning. "Failsafe is active. Core is secure," the lead creature finally announced, its voice resonant in the now calm chamber. Knox let out a long breath, the tension draining from his shoulders. "Good work, team. Let's not do that again anytime soon." With the core stabilized and the new failsafe in place, the chamber took on a serene quality. The earlier chaos and danger now just a memory. The humans and their mechanical allies gathered once more, their combined efforts having forged an unlikely bond. "We've averted the crisis, but I suspect there's more to this ship and the anomaly than we understand." "What's next?" Knox asked, turning to the creature. "It is time we shared more of our history with you. Understanding our past will illuminate your future," the mechanical being replied, gesturing to a part of the chamber where ancient inscriptions glowed faintly on the wall. As the team followed, their path illuminated by the soft light of a ship reborn from the brink of destruction, they knew the journey ahead would unveil truths that might challenge the very nature of their reality. The mystery of the derelict was unraveling, each revelation a thread pulling them deeper into the labyrinth of cosmic secrets. In the hushed ambiance of the ancient ship's chamber, where history whispered through the walls, Sergeant Knox and his team gathered around the glowing inscriptions. The mechanical beings, their bodies humming with a gentle rhythmic pulse, prepared to reveal the secrets held captive by time. "This ship," began the lead mechanical entity, its voice resonating with a depth that seemed to emanate from the very core of the vessel, "was once a harbinger of peace in the galaxy, a vessel that carried the seeds of life to barren worlds. But we encountered the anomaly, a tear in the fabric of space-time that trapped us in a perpetual loop of decay and renewal." The team listened, captivated by the gravity of the narrative unfolding, the chamber echoing with the somber tale of hope turned to despair. The air was thick with the musty scent of ancient secrets, the walls themselves seeming to lean in, eager to finally share their burden. "We sent the distress signal in hopes that someone would one day free us, not just from the physical confines of this anomaly, but from the existential torment of our failure," the creature continued, its flickering lights casting spectral shadows on the faces of the human crew. Knox stepped forward, his figure a stark silhouette against the luminescent scripts. "And we answered that call, not because we understood what we were stepping into, but because responding to a cry for help is what we do, what humans have always done." The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a promise. Then slowly, Knox turned to his team, his gaze sweeping over each member, acknowledging their bravery. "We've stabilized the anomaly, but this ship, these beings, they've given us a greater mission. It's not just about saving them. It's about taking up their mantle, continuing their mission of seeding life." No. The mechanical beings reacted, their bodies emitting a soft, harmonious sound that filled the chamber with a sense of approval and gratitude. "With the anomaly contained, we can now restart our mission. With your help, we can do more than just survive. We can thrive." Knox nodded, a determined set to his jaw. "Then let's get to work. Together we'll repair this ship fully, and then we'll see about using it to continue your legacy. The human race will help carry your mission forward as partners." The dialogue turned to technical plans, the human team and their mechanical counterparts discussing the logistics of repairing the ship and the practicalities of their new joint mission. The chamber buzzed with a newfound energy, a mix of human determination and alien technology, creating a symphony of progress. As the plan solidified, Knox took a moment to step away, gazing out a nearby porthole at the swirling anomaly outside, now calm and contained. The sight was a stark reminder of their narrow escape from chaos, a visual testament to their victory. "We did it," he whispered to himself, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "We actually did it." The final scene was set in the same chamber, now fully restored, the walls aglow with vibrant colors of alien script and human equations, a blend of both cultures. The team gathered, human and machine, in a ceremony to celebrate their partnership. "To new beginnings," Knox announced, raising a symbolic glass filled with a vibrant, alien liquid provided by their hosts. "To a future where humans and machines work as one, where we help carry on legacies and create new ones." The mechanical beings emitted a series of harmonious tones, the universal sign of their joy and agreement. The sound filled the chamber, a melodious affirmation of the bond between species from different worlds, united by common goals. As the celebration continued, the camera panned out, leaving the ship and moving through the vastness of space. The voice of Knox narrated, echoing over the visual of the ship slowly starting to move, its engines igniting with a gentle roar, ready to sail through the cosmos once more. "We answered a distress call and found our purpose. We found new allies, new friends, and now we take to the stars not just as survivors but as bearers of life, of hope. This is humanity's legacy, our willingness to reach out, to help, and to unite. This is how we move forward, together." The screen faded to black, the words, "The End," appearing, followed by a more hopeful statement, "A new beginning." The thematic message was clear. Humanity's greatest strength lies not just in surviving, but in helping others, in extending the hand of friendship and alliance across the universe. The title SOS received, "The Deathworlder Fleet is on the move," echoed once more, not as a call to battle, but as a pledge to aid, to protect, and to renew.